taking three.
Going for the St. Louis now.
Oh no!
Son of a bitch.
You get your two?
Yeah. Back to the channel, everyone. Thotgor here, of course. And today we are going to take a look at a battle on Fault Line, and I'm in the Nagato. Yes. You'll also notice that I'm grouped up with Hybrid once again today. So, the Nagato. I mean, I don't take her out very often. I do still have her. I kept her after, researched past her and got to the Imagi. And I kept the Nagato for a few reasons. Historically, just to have the ship in port, because, I mean, even though during World War II she didn't see very much combat, and in fact, I think she only fired her guns, her main batteries, once or twice in an actual battle. Other than that, she spent most of the time during World War II actually in port, serving as sort of coastal AA defense against the American onslaught. And then, of course, her whole nuclear testing at the end of World War II, and in fact, was only sunk after the second atomic blast at Bikini Atoll, and today obviously rests at the bottom of the atoll, upside down. Her prominent features are the propellers, but actually you can go there nowadays and scuba dive on the wreck, yeah, and it's considered one of the better scuba diving sites around the world, in fact. So there's that. Another reason why I kept her as well is she looks good. This is probably, in terms of battleships right now, this is we'll call it the second sexiest battleship in the game, in my opinion anyway. The first one is the Imagi. I just love the way the Imagi looks when she's fully upgraded with her final hull and whatnot. Oh man, for me that just sums up a battle cruiser, and I love it. But the Nagato, for me, close second, with the, obviously the final hull with the upgraded the upgraded conning tower on her as well. Funny fact as well here with the first hull, if you notice, the first hull has the two funnels, right? The first funnel kind of snakes back to the aft of the ship. Now this was done in an effort to reduce the amount of exhaust that would come up and, blind and suffocate. No one actually died, but make it harder to breathe and see for the crew that was in the actual bridge and on the what was it, Data Tower? That's probably mispronounced, but anyway, in the conning tower, right? So that was a vain attempt. I think it was in 1924 that they refit the funnel like that to avoid it. And then finally, with the funnel upgrade and modernization here of the Nagato, they just did away with that whole first funnel and just went with the one towards the aft. So yeah, I definitely did just plow in some allies, so kudos to me. But getting into the game, the Nagato also, I mean, it is a great battleship at tier 7. I really enjoy her, so just another reason for me anyway to keep her around. I kept, actually, now that I think about it, I kept all of my Japanese ships basically from tier 7 all the way up to where they are now, tier 8, 9, and tier 8 and 10 rather, because I have the Shimakaze now. Anyway, getting into the battle. I mean, you can see that there is an enemy battleship up in the distance there. Didn't really make a great decision, right, and decided to ground himself. I put a few shots into him, did a bit of damage there, so that's not too bad at all. And then we can also see other enemy battleships in the distance too, right? Specifically another Nagato. Now, my whole goal in this whole battle here, and what I'm trying to accomplish anyway, is to provide heavy support to Hybrid in the Miyoko, right? Now, obviously, in turn, Hybrid is providing support to me. Now, together, by working, together like this, we're going to hopefully be able to provide a pretty good offense, or at least blunt here to the enemy force over on the west side. It's fault line. The battle always typically happens over here in the west, especially when you're in a battleship, right? I mean, this is just the obvious place for a battleship to go. It has lots of maneuver potential over here. Anyway, so we're going to come over here and try to blunt, stop, and then push beyond the enemy advance, right? Enemy Nagato popped up, got a few quick shots into him, did a bit of damage there. I think it was like 6,200 damage, so that's not too bad. I was looking for citadels, but whatever. If you happen to notice the grouping on that salvo, it was actually quite good. I was very surprised with it. So once we get out from cover here, we'll try and get a few more shots into that enemy Nagato, or whatever other enemy ship happens to pop up. And you can see Hybrid is right off to the bow, or off my bow, right? So we're still sort of getting into position, but this is what I like about being in a battleship and coming over here to the west side. If he didn't spawn over here on the west side, excellent opportunity to start putting shots into other enemy battleships as they're essentially trying to get, into the same position that you're trying to get into. I get lucky in this case that the enemy battleships on the receiving end of my guns don't seem very interested in returning fire, so okay, that's great. Because you can see that the enemy Nagato there off in the distance, right, he paid a pretty heavy price in terms of hit points just to get himself, or just for that player can get over to this west side. So fantastic. I mean, we're already doing a bit of damage here, and now you can say that basically the same thing about us, right? Some of our cruisers over here have taken a bit of a pounding, so they are also not necessarily in the best of state. Tried to take a shot off in the Nagato, didn't exactly work out though. The Nagato, he was in some cover and it was just sort of guessing, but wasn't able to get those shots through the mountains. Taking a look around to see how the battle is developing, and we do have some defense over there on the east and in the middle of the map basically, but there is an enemy destroyer in the middle as well, causing some havoc to our team, so we need to keep that guy in mind, right? We really don't want him to sneak in behind us and start capping our base. That would be fairly tragic. So continuing to move towards the west, you can see Hybrid still up. Hybrid actually is going to have a phenomenal game here, so it's going to be a good game for Hybrid, and not a bad game for me at all. Keep in mind my whole goal of supporting, right, playing in a support role here in the battleship, trying to get that done, so I'm not looking to get a bunch of kills or anything like that. Obviously what I want to do is just do as much damage to the enemy as possible, so as long as I walk away with, say, over 50,000 damage in this game, I'd be happy with that. So we do have an enemy cruiser. It's a York. He's fairly close to, or the player is fairly close to us, but further than 6 kilometers away, so I don't have to worry about torpedoes from the York. And frankly, if I can just get a few nice salvos into this guy, I was hoping to be able to sink the ship fairly quickly, because it's a York, right? But unfortunately, it looked like those shells that I fired at the York just amounted to over penetrations. Now we're lining up an American battleship here off in the distance, just waiting for my guns to reload. We'll fire off the bow guns there, and hopefully we can get a shot off with the stern guns, assuming the enemy doesn't go in behind cover. The enemy was fairly crafty, and I overled the target, so those shots didn't actually amount to anything, so that kind of sucks. But whatever, we'll just have to keep that in mind for next time when we take another shot off at that enemy. The enemy York is turning around, heading back towards the south, so I'm not going to be able to get too good of a shot off here because I don't want my shots to hit the mountain, right? Obviously the stern guns fired and they did hit the mountain, so again, didn't amount to anything. But my allies, my allied cruisers, Hybrid included, is engaging the York, and the York is actually on fire, and going below half health right now, so that's pretty great. This American battleship is still off in the distance. You can see that it, basically maybe at a quarter speed or at a stop right now, because really not moving, could even be going into reverse. So we're just going to fire off some shells right at the center of the ship here, and hopefully those are going to hit and do a bit of damage to that enemy battleship. Sort of correct him in his mistake of stopping sort of out in the open. We're turning away now from the west, and it was a good call because you can see enemy destroyer, right? Even though I am the battleship, I'm not just going to go off on my own ahead of all of my allies. I'm going to try and stick with Hybrid, use the cruiser support that I have around me as well, to mitigate any sort of torpedo damage, because that's what I'm really most concerned about. I mean, we know that there's 2 enemy destroyers. We just saw one of the enemy destroyers, so we know that he's fairly close to me. The last time we saw the second enemy destroyer was when he was in the middle of the map, so we don't know exactly where that player is, so we need to keep that person in mind so that we don't get caught off guard and suddenly take a bunch of torpedoes. American battleship still off there in the distance, basically kind of looks like he's at a stop, so we're going to put a full salvo into that guy, hopefully do a bit of damage there. You do see an enemy cruiser who is way off there in the north right. Not 100% sure what that guy or what that player is doing, but fantastic. If he wants to take himself out of the battle, good for him. So the salvo we sent off at the American battleship found its mark, did a bunch of damage. We didn't get any citadels, but we did about 11,000 damage in that salvo, so that's pretty good. We've got that American battleship down to about half health. We do see an enemy Nuremberg off in the distance, but we're not going to switch over to the Nuremberg just as of yet. I really wanted to get some more shots into this American battleship, take advantage of the fact that, you know, he's basically at a stop right now. So trying to put in as much fire into this guy as we possibly can, in hopes that, you know, we might actually be able to sink the ship, or one of my allies around me will get the killing blow and get that guy gone. So another salvo goes in. I think it was about 6,200 on that salvo, so that's pretty great. We're almost reloaded again. You can see the American battleship has finally decided to start moving forward. Only took about 17,000 damage for this player to realize it's probably not a great idea to just stop in the open like that. Probably not a good idea at all. In the meantime, we do have some allies who are putting pressure on the enemy base. In fact, they spotted one of the enemy destroyers back there, so we can see him. That salvo did about another 5,800 damage to that American battleship, so fantastic. Our Allied cruisers down there at the enemy base, though, they're doing a great job, right? Because this is really pressuring the enemy to kind of turn back, defend their base, or make an all-out push towards our base. And, you know, in either scenario, hopefully they're going to make some mistakes, and we'll be able to take advantage of those. In the meantime as well, one of my allies did kill the enemy cruiser, who was way off in the northeast, right, basically accomplishing nothing. So great, good job by my ally cruiser. We don't have to worry about that guy sneaking in and capping our base. We just put a salvo out to the York. So hopefully those are going to land and do a bit of damage. There we go, there's a nice citadel, and the enemy York is on very low health now as well. So hopefully we'll be able to finish this guy off, and then you know, maybe as well finish off this American battleship. You can see the American battleship though is on fire. He's moving in behind cover, so I'm not too concerned about that guy. In fact, you know, one of my allies will probably finish him off. It's that enemy York that I really wanted to get, because he has given me a great broadside, great opportunity to put some nice shots into this guy and just get him gone, right? That would be fantastic. Looking at the overall battle, things are going great. we are winning this. You can see I just got my first kill. Hybrid has a kill here as well, and Hybrid, in fact, you can see he's still in front of me, and we're moving closer into the enemy base. Now this is where I thought it was all over, because this enemy destroyer just popped up, really, you know, surprised me, caught me off guard, which is exactly what I didn't want to have happen. Luckily though, Hybrid is right there to save me, right? So his salvo goes in, takes out the enemy destroyer. Enemy destroyer did launch off torpedoes. I'm only going to take one though, so that is not a big deal at all. In fact, it didn't even cause any flooding, so no big deal at all. And you can see right there the benefit, right, of sticking close to Hybrid, sticking close to my cruiser support. As soon as that destroyer popped up, it was a big oh shit moment, but Hybrid was right there to save me. So kudos to you, Hybrid, and you know, hopefully you guys can see the benefit when you're in a battleship of sticking close to your cruiser support. You do not need to be way off in the back of the map, long range firing at guys, long range firing at ships, right? You can be in there fairly close, do a bunch more damage, and the closer you get, the more accurate your guns will be. I'm not sure about dispersion, but at least the accuracy is going to increase a little bit there on your with your guns. Anyway, enemy cruiser trying to get into the base there, right, and prevent our cap. You can see that we do have a few allies in the enemy base right now capping away. Hybrid is one of them in his Miyoko. There he is up there. And I'm, you know, basically just steaming straight towards the cap as well. If my allies don't have a cap by the time I get there, then I'll be able to help out. And I can start taking off some nice shots at this enemy cruiser. Hopefully do a bit more damage there. You can see, you know, I've already broken the 50,000 damage mark, so, you know, I'm pretty happy with the way that this game has gone. And in fact, there's a victory for us. I believe Hybrid got that kill with his torpedoes, in fact. It maybe lagged a little there at the end, but yeah, pretty sure that's what's happened. So you can see Hybrid's top of the team overall with his 3 kills. I did manage 1, and I'm what's that, 5th down, so that's pretty good. I was pretty happy with it. 72,000 damage, not too shabby at all. And it was a fairly great game in the old Nagato. You know, it's a great battleship. And like we talked about earlier at the beginning of the episode here, one of the, you know, main reasons why I kept her is just the historical significance of the battleship, and she looks great, doesn't she? Look at her. Not bad at all. anyway, that is today's video. I do thank you guys for sticking around, watching it through. As always, leave any comments you have for me in the video comments section below. I love reading those and responding back to them. Hit the old like button if you did like today's video. Hit subscribe if you are not a subscriber. And as always, I do hope you enjoy the rest of your day.